After the world ends, survivors are trapped in capsules, speaking only through video calls. 5 years have passed since the outbreak, and people still live alone in their underground bunkers, completely isolated from the outside world. Each bunker is designed for a single occupant, and the only form of communication with other survivors is through a computer system that allows video calls in groups of up to 7. Food comes in the form of a nutrient-rich powder containing all essential vitamins and minerals. Artificial lighting mimics the natural cycle of day and night to help maintain healthy sleep patterns. An exercise bike, used daily, not only keeps residents physically active but also generates electricity to power the bunker. It's become a crucial part of everyone's routine. 7 survivors who have supported each other over the years go by code names based on American cities: Orlando, Boston, Atlanta, Chicago, Phoenix, Denver, and Houston. Their fragile peace is shattered when Orlando drops a bombshell. Before the pandemic, he used to kill people. The group is stunned, horrified, but Orlando feels no shame. Instead, he seems to take pleasure in unsettling the others, constantly reminding them of the grim reality they live in. He's especially cruel to Atlanta, mocking her with the idea that her children are likely dead somewhere out in the infected world. His behavior crosses every line. Boston, the group's de facto leader, calls for a vote to permanently disconnect Orlando from their communication system, a serious step, as once someone is removed, there's no way back in. Boston, Atlanta, and Chicago vote in favor of the removal. Phoenix strongly opposes it, insisting that no one has the right to judge someone for their past. Denver, as always, sides with her. Houston remains undecided, unwilling to cast the deciding vote. Finally, tired of the drama, Orlando volunteers to be cut off, but not before throwing a few more cruel jabs and dark predictions at the group. Under growing pressure, Denver reluctantly caves and disconnects Orlando from the network.
Done.
That night, Phoenix lies awake, unable to sleep, overwhelmed by guilt and anxiety. Denver reaches out to her for a private video call. She confides in him, saying she feels uneasy judging others for their past mistakes. Denver gently reminds her that Orlando is still safe in his bunker in Florida, he's just no longer part of their group. They end the call by placing their hands on their screens, whispering goodnight, and quietly exchanging I love yous. 8 months later, the group's situation has noticeably worsened. Phoenix is still struggling with insomnia and haunted by recurring nightmares about her late mother. Houston's sleep schedule has been thrown completely off by malfunctions in his system. Everyone is on edge, and arguments have become more frequent. Atlanta turns to prayer for comfort, and for the first time in a long while, Phoenix joins her. After their morning prayers, they check the daily stats as usual. First their personal health readings, then the global data across all bunkers. The numbers are disturbing. Out of the original 500,000 survivors, fewer than 490,000 remain. On average, they're losing about 6 people a day. Chicago argues that tracking these grim statistics is pointless. When another argument breaks out, he cuts it short by playing an old instructional video featuring Nadine, the woman who designed the bunkers, a video they've all seen thousands of times. That night, Phoenix and Denver spend time together again, talking side by side from their screens. Lying in bed, they start practicing using their real names instead of the city code names they've always used. But the next morning brings a troubling surprise. The statistics display begins glitching, then suddenly shuts down completely. At the same time, Houston's sleep regulation program starts malfunctioning as well. Phoenix begins to suspect that something in the system was damaged when they removed Orlando from the group.
Think about it, there are supposed to be 7 of us, and right now there are only 6.
The rest of the group disagrees with the idea of bringing Orlando back, and Denver insists he doesn't even know how to do it from a technical standpoint. Phoenix becomes frustrated by his unwillingness to even try and decides to temporarily stop communicating with the group. Worried, Denver reaches out to her privately. He reassures her that he truly wants to help. Moved by his sincerity, Phoenix finally decides to share her own dark past. She reveals that her mother died long before the pandemic began, and that when the lottery was announced, she was in prison. She never knew her father, he died when she was very young. Her mother raised her alone, but because she worked constantly, they barely spent time together. Left to her own devices, teenage Phoenix fell in with the wrong crowd and began using drugs. That led to lies, theft, and a deepening addiction. At 17, she ran away from home, and when she returned, her dependence had only worsened. One tragic night, high and paranoid, she became convinced that her mother had stolen her stash. In a fit of rage, she grabbed a kitchen knife and killed the only person who had ever truly loved her. Later, she found the drugs, exactly where she'd left them, hidden in her own room. Now Denver understands why Phoenix was so against voting Orlando out, though he still feels their crimes are on entirely different levels. Wanting to help her cope with the crushing guilt, he decides to try re-establishing contact with Orlando. Denver works for hours, attempting to restore the connection. Finally, late at night, he manages to get Orlando's channel back online. But what they see leaves them stunned. Orlando's bunker is completely empty. When they inform the rest of the group, Boston is furious that Denver and Phoenix acted behind everyone's backs. Houston panics, irrationally insisting that Orlando must be the one tampering with his sleep system. Phoenix offers a more logical theory. Maybe Orlando tried to escape. Atlanta argues that the doors are locked, but the truth is, none of them have even tried to open their door since entering the bunkers. Without telling anyone, Phoenix decides to try hers.
Phoenix!
The others continue trying to dissuade her, warning about the risk of a deadly virus breaching the shelter. Later, Phoenix and Boston have a private conversation about the growing tension. Phoenix believes it's time for a change in leadership, but Boston counters that she's starting to sound a lot like Denver, someone he finds deeply suspicious. Boston confesses that Denver reminds him of his father, a man who came across as warm and charismatic, but was cold and dangerous beneath the surface. Phoenix pushes back, insisting she knows Denver well enough to trust him. Still, despite standing up for Denver, Phoenix can't shake a growing sense of doubt. She begins rewatching old footage of her time with him, and the memories stir something unsettling. It makes her wonder, could Orlando have left behind any personal recordings? She asks Denver to try accessing Orlando's private files, and he agrees. At first, the footage seems completely routine, Orlando going about his day, working out, eating, but the final recording is deeply unsettling. Orlando is exercising on a machine when the screen suddenly fills with static. Through the distortion, his panic screams can be heard, raw and desperate. When the static clears, Orlando's bunker is completely empty, and the door is wide open. Since the footage runs for over 5 hours, Denver skips to the end. There, he sees the bunker door slowly closing on its own. When they share this discovery with the others, a paranoid Houston launches into a wild theory that Orlando is actually a mastermind who orchestrated the entire bunker situation and lied about the pandemic. Boston suggests the video might have been doctored, but even he admits the explanation feels shaky. Phoenix proposes they consider escaping. It's becoming clear that the bunkers are no longer safe. As usual, Boston insists on putting it to a vote, but Houston ignores the discussion entirely, and Atlanta argues that this isn't the right time to make such a drastic decision. That night, Phoenix searches every inch of her bunker and discovers a small removable panel in the wall. As she tries to pry it open, her computer screen suddenly comes to life with a horrifying image. Houston is slamming his head against the wall over and over, then bursts into maniacal laughter. As he completely breaks down in the middle of the room, a shadowy figure appears on screen, just before the feed cuts to static. A few seconds later, the signal returns, but Houston's bunker is now empty. After Houston's disappearance, even the skeptical Boston is forced to admit that they're no longer safe. Phoenix confides in Denver about her fears, then tries to sleep, only to be haunted by a nightmare of someone breaking into her bunker. When she wakes up, she realizes she's not alone. It turns out the rat had gotten in through the loose panel Phoenix had found the night before. She decides to investigate further. Reaching into the opening, her hand finds nothing but empty space. When the rest of the group checks their own walls, they discover identical panels, each hiding the same impossible void. That kind of open space shouldn't exist in an underground structure. Another heated argument breaks out, but this time, Phoenix steps up and takes control. She naturally assumes the role of the group's new leader. She instructs Denver to try and establish contact with any other survivors, while the rest begin searching for possible escape routes. Chicago takes a passive stance, insisting they should just wait things out. He refuses to join the search. When no one can find anything useful, Atlanta takes a desperate step. She breaks the pipe that delivers their nutrient powder, hoping to see where it leads. But just like the panels, behind the wall is nothing but an enormous, empty void. Suddenly, static floods Atlanta's screen. A shadowy figure appears, and within seconds, she vanishes. Just like Houston, shaken to his core, Chicago finally breaks. Unable to cope with the horror, he decides to end his life. Pulling back his blanket, the others discover he's been hoarding nutrient powder, starving himself for some time. Using the blanket as a noose, he hangs himself from one of the overhead pipes. No! Once the remaining survivors recover from the latest shock, Denver shares the results of his investigation into the bunker's computer system. He managed to access video footage of other people outside their group, though the recordings have no sound. Most of the residents in the other bunkers seem relatively normal, but many, like Chicago, are clearly struggling to cope with prolonged isolation. But the most shocking discovery is this: Denver only found records for 1,000 individuals, not the 500,000 they were told about from the start. That means there are only 1,000 bunkers, and they had been lied to about the scale of humanity's so-called rescue. Staggered by the deception, Phoenix decides she'd rather break out on her own terms than sit around waiting for unknown forces to take her. She hatches a plan: use the sharp edges of the broken panels to sever the wires controlling the door locks, even if it means losing access to food and oxygen. She and Denver agree on a rendezvous point in case they manage to escape. Boston, staying true to his principles, insists they hold one final vote, to honor the group's tradition. With their minds made up, all three cut the wires at the same time. Alarms immediately blare to life, but the doors begin to open. A staircase is revealed, but it leads to a dead end. For a moment, they fear it was a trap. Then they realize the wall at the top of the stairs is another hidden door. When they open it, a long corridor stretches out before them. It becomes clear, they were all inside the same building, and their bunkers were positioned right next to each other. Phoenix and Denver share their first kiss, and the trio begins exploring. Each door in the hallway leads to another identical bunker. Eventually, they find an exit to the rooftop, and what they see leaves them speechless. The building stands in the middle of a fully functioning city. Streets bustle with life. People walk, drive, shop. The world outside looks perfectly normal, as if the pandemic never happened. At the building's only exit, 2 security guards stand watch. Boston, in a moment of selfless courage, distracts them to give his friends a chance to escape. But Phoenix isn't ready to leave, not without answers. She and Denver sneak into the administrative wing of the building, filled with sleek offices and filing cabinets. While Phoenix sifts through stacks of documents, Denver stumbles upon a wall covered in photographs. All of the people from their group. That's when someone catches them. It's Nadine, the creator of the bunkers. She clearly knows how dangerous Denver is, and she's not about to take any chances. Under Phoenix's pressure, Nadine finally breaks and reveals the shocking truth behind everything. They weren't just participants in some experiment, they were prisoners. The pandemic was a complete fabrication. The news footage? All staged by hired actors. The inmates were transferred from regular prisons into these experimental bunkers, drugged with powerful sleeping pills slipped into their meals. The reason the experiment was shut down? Just as cold and cynical as the whole thing. A video of Orlando being expelled from the group leaked online, sparking a massive public scandal. People were outraged to discover the prisoners were treated with unexpected humanity, given relative freedom and comfortable living conditions. Facing public backlash, the government pulled the plug on the program and ordered all participants sent back to traditional prisons. Denver erupts, furious at Nadine's lies and manipulation. She fires back, calling him one big mistake in selecting participants. Each inmate was chosen through a rigorous psychological screening designed to ensure they wouldn't share their personal stories with one another. This way, Nadine could study how each created a new identity to survive and adapt to the fabricated social environment. When Phoenix demands to know the truth about the others, Nadine lays it all bare, each of their dark pasts exposed. Orlando was a lifetime criminal. His confession to serial murder was no lie. Houston, a gang member who personally killed 20 people. Atlanta suffered from severe postpartum psychosis and drowned her own daughters in a moment of madness. Chicago was a drug addict and thief. Boston masterminded a bank robbery with 2 brothers, and then cold-bloodedly killed them to keep the loot. And Denver? A serial killer who preyed on women he met on dating sites. 11 victims, no less. Phoenix recoils in horror, shattered to learn the truth about those she once called friends. But Nadine insists the experiment was fundamentally humane. She gave these people a life far better than any prison could offer, a chance to shed their dark pasts, forge new identities, and build real human connections. Before the conversation can continue, more guards arrive, firing stun guns to subdue the escapees. Phoenix blacks out, awakening in her bunker to find a shadowy figure approaching. But it's just another dream. When she finally wakes for good, she's handcuffed to a chair, next to Denver. Their conversation is tense. Phoenix admits she can't believe she ever trusted him. Denver insists his feelings were real, and chillingly adds he loved her just as much as his victims. He admits he suspected the experiment's true nature the moment Phoenix told him about her crime. With Orlando's confessions and his own past, it was easy for him to piece it all together. He never said a word because he found the entire experiment twistedly fascinating. Phoenix calls him a sociopath. He calmly agrees. The guards drag them back into the hallway, where the rest of the survivors from the original group await. Orlando immediately lashes out, accusing everyone of hypocrisy before suddenly attacking a guard, trying to grab his weapon. The desperate act triggers a volley of gunfire from the other guards. The remaining 5 participants are sent back to their bunkers, where they have to wait for the transfer process to be arranged, returning them to the prisons where they'll serve out their original sentences. Chicago's body is carried out of his bunker, and all his belongings are mercilessly thrown away. But in her room, Phoenix finds 2 things that mean a lot to her: a photo of her beloved mother, whom she tragically took from the world during a moment of madness, and the tiny body of a rat, the only living creature that managed to infiltrate their artificial world. Was Nadine's experiment ethically justified? She gave criminals a chance to change for the better, build genuine relationships, and leave their pasts behind, even if it meant deceiving them. But do we, as a society, have the right to reprogram people for their own good? Or is it more important for individuals to know the truth about themselves? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.